Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the LOI Talk podcast. We've got a Cork City team show this week, which I'm delighted about, right up my street, I suppose. And we're absolutely honoured to have Declan Carey from the TOTAP podcast on. Firstly, Declan, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Before we start talking about Cork City, because I don't think it's something either of us really want to do at the moment. Would you like to tell the listeners who might not be familiar about TOTAP what you're sort of about?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. First of all, anyway, lads, great to be on. I've come across you anyway on Twitter and or X, sorry, and TikTok and stuff. So great to be invited on. And yeah, I was sent all the way from TOTAP Towers. Look, I only joined the podcast at the start of this season. The lads asked me to join the team, and it's been running now for about 5. I think this is the 5th season. There's 2 podcasts. There's one that focuses more on the men's team and the Men's League of Ireland, and then we have another podcast called TOTAP Las Damas, which is out every Monday, and that focuses solely on the entire Women's National League. It's not really a Cork City focused pod. It's has the likes of Jessica Farry, Eileen Ring, Declan McCormick. So if anyone has a huge interest in the Women's National League, you've definitely heard of Las Damas. But look, our podcast is it's mainly a bit of crack, lads. To be honest, it's I was delighted to join it because I've been following the podcast for a couple of years before I joined the team. And look, the lads have a good bit of a laugh, but to be honest, we discuss some very serious topics impacting the club as well, and what supporters want to hear and see discussed. And we've got a mailbag. We get dozens of questions every week. We can't even get through them now at this stage. We've got a Patreon. We've got regular donators to the podcast that help fund it and keep it going. Huge social media presence as well. We're across, we've got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X. We're on YouTube as well, like yourselves. I'm going to steal some ideas from you as well, lads. That intro was class. I have to say, that's probably been one of the better produced League of Ireland intros I've ever seen, even across TV and stuff like that. So fair play to you. But yeah, look, I guess that's just a little bit about the other 3 Amigos podcast. And yeah, look, I'm not sure how much you know about the ins and outs, but the podcast as well, as you can probably imagine, has what I'd probably call a frosty relationship with Cork City FC in itself. There was once upon a time, this is prior to my time, where the podcast had media accreditation and stuff like that, and that's now been taken away. And there's been debates back and forth with the FEI, and the FEI have backed Cork City as well and taken away our accreditation as well for all other grounds across the league, which is interesting. But look, hopefully you never suffer the same fate. So yeah, you might have to play the game a little bit there, but yeah. But so there's this kind of narrative out there, I suppose, that we're at loggerheads with the club and things like that, but we're not really. We're all diehard City fans. Everyone that's on the TOTAP podcast, I've been supporting the club almost all my life and volunteering for the club, and I was the chairman once upon a time, if you haven't heard. And we all want what's best for the club, and often we have to critique the club and give constructive criticism and feedback on what the club is doing. And look, I suppose they don't like that from time to time. These are people, and I know a lot of them, to be honest, working hard out in Bishopstown and doing their best for the club. But look, I suppose the fans, the fans want to hear us discuss what's going on at Cork City, and we'll continue to do that. And we've got good support, and we're grateful for all our listeners and supporters.
Well, fair play to you. I think usually, followers and viewers will take to authenticity, and it sounds like that's kind of what you go for. So that's absolutely fantastic. Just to get into the Cork City side of things, begrudgingly, between the men and women's side for Cork City so far, they've won just 4 games out of a possible 38. For both teams, what would you put that down to yourself?
Yeah, look, we do actually discuss it in our pod that came out earlier today as well. And look, I think it's just, John, in my opinion anyway, and I think the general opinion from lads is just poor transfer windows, poor use of the club's funds. There's been a lot of upheaval and changes in the management positions across the men's and women's. I think I just don't think it's worked out for the club's ownership. We're coming close now to the end of the 3rd season with the club's current ownership structure, which to be honest, I backed and helped implement, to be honest, because I was on the board of Forest, which handed the club over to Dermot Usher originally, and now he's got a a partial investor as well, a guy David Cronin. I think he owns 20% of the club, and like it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. And this happens in football, and it just feels to me like potentially Dermot might not be suited to the role he's currently playing at the club, and maybe he changes things drastically. He takes a step back from close involvement in the footballing matters, and just maybe takes a more kind of helicopter view of the club, and he puts people in place that manage it, and he becomes what, like, similar to like Gareth Kelleher and Doherty at Derry, like, you know, silent investors, for want of a better term. Like, you never really see those guys in the media, and you don't hear about them having like such involvement with the first team manager. And there's a touch of a football manager dream team. I think you're definitely way too young for dream team. But look, there's definitely an element to that about it, I think. And, look, that temptation is there. Like, when I was on the board and I was the chairman too, there's an unbelievable temptation to start meddling in the football matters on a day-to-day basis. And that's something that can be very difficult because you're such a passionate supporter, and you know, you're involved in the club and you potentially have that power, but it's like, it's a delicate balance to find that, and that takes time. And look, in 3 years, no, and I just think it's time for change at the club, and time for change at the club's hierarchy.
Yeah, I think, like, you're definitely right that we haven't got it right at a transfer window level. But what I would say is and this is kind of an observation I've made of both the men and the women's team. Now, in fact, I've only got around to see one women's game this year. Very bad in my part. I was up with Dylan Power in DLR Waves in the UCD Bowl. But what I found from that day is we were very competitive. It was one of the worst teams in the league, but we were probably the better side that day and still couldn't come out with all 3 points. And it's the same with the men's team. It seems to be well able to, like, there's very few games. I'm thinking maybe Shamrock Rovers is one, but very few games this year where we've got really hammered. We've usually been kind of in the game in most games. It's just a case of not having that quality in the, you know, to kind of close out the games.
And and look, the managers have alluded to it. Like, I'll just talk about the men's first. Like, alluded to fitness issues. Now, I know that's like cliche 101. Like, new manager Jordan Ash comes in, first thing he's going to say, players aren't fit. Like, you know, it's an easy win from him, and going to start doing double sessions and this and that and the other. And like, I think it was apparent as well in Tim Clancy's time for the first, like, I guess, third of the season when he was in charge. Like, we seemed to fade late on in games. We conceded late goals, gave up leads. There was a time there we had this record where, like, for any games where we were the first team to score, like, we very, very rarely went on to, like, gain any points from the game. And we just couldn't hold on to a lead. And like, that same blueprint was there again on Friday. Like, we went 2-0 up against Sligo, and as soon as Sligo got the first one back, I was like, that's it. I looked at the clock and I was like, there's too much time left. They're going to score another 2. And it was inevitable. And that's just a very disheartening thing, I guess. And that game was the last gasp, last ditch saloon, whatever way you want to call it, because it was a true 6-pointer. We were on a position where we were 5 points behind them. I think, what minute did Sligo score? Was it like 59 or something like that? For the best part of an hour of the game. And then all of a sudden, bang, game's over. We're 11 points behind. Doomed. And Sligo are on a great run. They're well able to pick up results. And like, they're a team that, like, recently have put it up to Bows and Shamrock Rovers, and they would have been disappointed even to not get like 6 points from those 2 games against the league's top 2 teams. And they've beaten Derry, they've beaten Galway, they've beaten us. Like, they're on us. Like, they look like the inform team in the league at the moment, like, don't they? So, like, my opinion, they'll probably catch Galway, and Galway will be the ones dragged into the playoff. Like, Galway are probably in as bad a rut as we are. They had poor results against Waterford recently, and poor result again the other night. Like, it's, I think it'll be us relegated automatically and Galway into the playoff. And like, I guess worst nightmare ever then for a Cork City fan is potentially Cove Ramblers winning the playoff, and they're in the, like, imagine them in the Premier and us in the First Division. Like, that, to me, I think, like, fate is a big thing sometimes in football, and So the way this season has gone, you almost think at times it can't get any worse. We go into the transfer window, there's this exodus of players that we never expected to leave, like Malik and Mbeng and Daniels to some extent. Some people thought he might stick around. And you know what? The cherry on the top of this terrible season and the worst birthday cake you could ever get would be Cork Ramblers getting promoted and us going down. Like it's the writing's on the wall, like, isn't it? So, you know, it's tough. And the women's side as well. The women's side, like, I just don't think, John, like I know of, like, there's this pay structure. Like, we're one of the very few teams in the league now that don't have like a proper pay structure for players. Like, someone told me the other day, and I don't know exactly how true this is, but like a player that plays on the bench or something gets like €10 or something like that, or starts on the bench or whatever. Like, and you know, imagine going up there, as you said there, you went up to that DLR Waves game and just on I don't know why you were there, probably just on a trip up to watch the team. Fair play to you, but like the players themselves, like they're training 2 or 3 times during the week. They're traveling up to Dublin, playing a game, doing the warm down, traveling all the way back, you know, getting their food ready, all the stuff. And, you know, sub goalkeeper, for example, like, here's €10, thanks a million. Like, it just, at this day and age, it's 2025 now. And we just don't seem to have like a proper, like, structure around that women's side and a clear strategy and plan. Unless the club has one, but they certainly haven't like communicated it. And we hear all these whispers and things like that around what's going on. And like, I know Frank Kelleher's come in, and look, I've great time for Frank, and I know him personally as well. And I just, I just feel for him, really, like, because it's a very difficult environment for him to be working in. Danny Murphy left as well, so another manager change at, you know, women's team level. He only signed a new deal there at the end of 2024, and he was gone a couple of weeks into the season or whatever. And you know, Frank came in, and Frank's the manager before, got the club, won a cup, the FAI Cup with the club, and he's a great coach, UEFA Pro license holder, great guy. But like, what's he working with? Like, it's tough. Yeah,
it's no, and yeah, it's quite bleak. All right, when you think about it, you know, that's all they get for like sitting on the bench is a tenner. Like, that is actually very bleak, because
allegedly.
Okay, fair enough. But that's a serious commitment, and it's not much thanks, is it? But
and look, I suppose if you had funds then to sign players and able to compensate them, and maybe had a bit of accommodation for players, and you know, you might attract a more talented player then from clubs around Munster and, you know, the edges of Leinster there to come down and play for us, and maybe try and sort them out with a full-time job, and maybe a nice shake hands, as we call it here, like in Cork, you know, for playing with the club. And there's different creative ways, but it just looks like, you know, I'll be honest, it looks to me like the women's team is like an afterthought to the club, and it's just something like we have to do, and an obligation that we have. And it's, you know, where they end the table now, second bottom, and as you said, 2 wins, slightly better win ratio than the men's. But you know, it's been a bleak couple of seasons for them as well, to be fair. Like, have they broken out of the bottom 2?
They're struggling, unfortunately. It's, you know, it's not good to see. Some would say the turning point this season for the men's would be the departure of Tim Clancy kind of midway through the year. How big a loss do you think he's been to the club?
I'm going to be brutally honest, John. I don't think he has been a huge loss. Like, Nash's data in terms of points per game, goals scored, goals conceded, it's all worse than Tim Clancy. And look, I think we were second bottom when Tim left. So look, you can probably argue like that, you know. Sorry about this, folks. We just have a future Cork City player here jumping in on camera.
He'll be saving us.
There you go. He finally made it. That's his debut there now in League of Ireland. People, when he's running out and captain in Cork City in 20 years' time, they can use this clip. I guess I was just talking about Tim Clancy. Like, Jornash's numbers are all worse, and like, we've had a huge turnover of players as well in the transfer window. And but look, Tim had been setting up a gym up the country. He'd been traveling up and down. He's had, in my opinion, he has his flaws as well, and I just don't think he was the best fit for the club, and he obviously had a lot going on. And he said it himself, like he didn't feel like he could give it 100%. And when a guy knows that his time is up himself, and we obviously heard plenty of stories as well about how his relationship was with the club. And Tim, of course, will say when he's doing public interviews that things ended amicably, and there's no problem, and he wishes the club all the best. Tim's just doing that to make sure that he doesn't give himself a bad reputation for the next job, and burn the house down on his way out, and torch the torch the earth, or whatever you want to call it. So we know that Tim is under difficult situations himself, probably budgetary things, and he was struggling to find an assistant manager. His own living conditions weren't ideal. He said he was living with players there towards the end. He was commuting up and down. Is it Meath he was living in? And and look, obviously he was setting up his family business there in the gym and all that. So look, I as much as I think Nash is a worse situation to be in. Maybe it might have been slightly better to hold on to Tim if we could, but yeah, who knows what type of situation Tim would have been in then if we went into the transfer window. And there was all these rumors too that Ger Nash was offered the job even after Tim had just secured the first division last season, and we've been promoted. And that's not obviously a good thing if that did happen. And I'm sure that completely ruined Tim's confidence, maybe, or whatever. If I was him and I heard something like that, it wouldn't be nice. And you have to remember too, Tim left the club on a Friday night. Was it 10:30 p.m. or 11 p.m. the statement went out? And we heard that Ger Nash had been offered the Cork City job, and he had agreed in principle to take the job, and all he had to do was just fly into Cork and finish the details. We heard that on the Monday. So in one weekend, Ger Nash leaves his job in Sweden, and I think in my opinion it was lined up and ready to happen. And so it doesn't add up to a good situation for Tim, and I imagine he was working in difficult circumstances as well. But then again, as I said, there's a balance to this, and I still don't think, and he knows himself, he wasn't the right man for Cork City for this season to see it out.
Yeah, totally. No, I personally, I was a big fan of Tim, and I think he's a great background. I actually wrote an article just saying my admiration for him. But I think he said himself it was towards the end, it was 50-50. He was only able to give 50% because of, as you've well illustrated, the commuting side of the things, etc. So unfortunately it just didn't. I think it probably was the right decision for him to go, but if I'm being honest with you, I don't think Ger Nash has really been
God, yeah.
At all.
Ger is setting himself up to be the worst Cork City manager appointment of all time, isn't he?
He is.
I'm struggling to think of a worse one, and to get so few points on the board, and we go through some of the exact details and numbers. Declan McCormick on our podcast has he has the decimal points out when it comes to points per game and all that kind of stuff. I can't recall now the exact numbers, but they're poor, and and the proof is in the pudding. He hasn't won a league game yet. Beat Leicester Celtic, but a Munster Senior League Division 1 team would beat Leicester Celtic, would really put it up to them. They're the fifth tier of the Leinster Senior League or something like that. So that doesn't even remotely count in the stratosphere that we're in. We're in a completely different one to them. But other than that, you would even think we might gain some confidence from that game. Scored 3 goals, and then go into the Sligo game, and it looked to be honest, in the first half against Sligo, we were the better side. But again, it's just the same problems again, whatever it is, whether it's confidence, fatigue, who knows. I always say this, usually when a team gets relegated, it's a myriad of many different reasons that cause it. And you could probably list out maybe 10 off the top of your head here and just rattle them off. And it all points to me to certainty that we're going to go down, and with a whimper as well by the looks of it, 11 points behind now, and it's the 1st of August.
Yeah, it's very bleak. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. So we're playing Galway United Friday night, as you mentioned, they're in really poor form as well. Now, I believe this is kind of funny, their last win actually came against us, I think. But look, we won't get into that too deeply. There's rumours of protests Do you think a win could start a comeback, or is it too little too late at this stage?
I think the problem is last Friday was like the last bit of jeopardy, I guess, that, was there in terms of like the imagination of the supporters. Because like, I guess like when you look at League of Ireland games, you have to kind of have some kind of like something on the line in most games to attract any kind of a large crowd or support. And I think we've lost that now in the eyes of, there was like what, 2,600 at the game last Friday. And they've seen us go from, as I said, 5 points behind now to 11. So that's a massive like mental shift for supporters. And there is talk online on discussion forums and X, and even we got in a few comments into the podcast this week about like people staying outside the ground at 7:30, and they'll chant and they might have banners. Some are talking about doing displays inside the ground because they're saying we should still go in to support the players and be Cork City supporters. To be honest, John, I think there's probably like not enough cohesive agreement amongst the fans on what the one singular thing to do, and for that reason it'll probably be a bit scattered maybe, and there will be some demonstrations and whatever, but I don't think it'll be too overly harsh yet. I think it might get a bit harsher when it comes to the mathematical relegation, and the fans' frustration just completely boils over because the transfer window is closed now, and it's like, there's no real light at the end of the tunnel. So I would probably expect, maybe if I was a betting man, 20 or 30 supporters outside the ground chanting from 7:30 onwards, and maybe a few banners again and black smoke bombs or something like that. And look, Galway coming down to, like we said this as well on the pod this week, like teams that are in poor form, there's no better team they want to try and get back on track against than Cork City. Like it's happened to like the St. Pat's and Drogheda and others. Like they seem to be on poor runs and coming under criticism. I remember Stephen Kenny, especially that game we played up in Richmond Park. I think that was Jornash's first official game, albeit he wasn't in the dugout. I think he was watching from the stands, and he went in at half time for a team talk. But we were leading in that game as well, if I recall, and ended up blowing it and losing the game. Like, so, and gave Pats then a nice little boost of confidence, like as you remember yourself. So, like, it's,
yeah.
So I'm sure John Caulfield and Galway will be looking at this game saying, yeah, this is perfect now, lads. Cork are completely void of any confidence. We'll go down there, we'll play our typical agricultural style of football. We'll grind them out. We're fitter, we're stronger, and we come away with the 3 points. But I think there's probably the League of Ireland can be a very ironic league at times. Like, who knows? My own prediction is we'll probably beat them 1-0, and Sligo will beat Shelburne as well. Like, Shelburne are involved in the European games, and they're probably, they'll suffer a bit from that, I think. And Sligo are in such a good run of form. I reckon Sligo will win, and we'll win. And we'll gain nothing on Sligo.
that would be very luck this season. Yeah,
exactly. Because if you think about it, like, they have to lose 4 games and we have to win 4, and then we have to equal or better all their results in the other remaining 7 games. Then never going to happen.
Well, look, to me, after the Waterford game, it was over. That was the kind of boiling point for me, where I said we're not coming back from this now.
And just on my point, they came from a 7. Was it 7-1 they lost up in Derry the week before that game?
That's right.
I mean, come on, like, and back down to the RSC then and say, here we go, lads. We give, back on track again. And then they went up and beat Galway, didn't they? I think after that.
Yeah, they've been on the farm since. In fairness, we gave them a bit of confidence back. Like,
we're the greatest confidence boosters in the league for these teams.
Yeah, we're absolutely we are. That's something we can give ourselves.
Yeah.
We're kind of time, so we might just ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think anyone has the real answer to this question, but so just do your best, But what do you think needs to happen for Cork City to get back to where we used to be?
As much as it pains me to say it, John, and as I said earlier, I was involved in the takeover. I was pushing for Dermot Usher to take over the club. He won the vote by like 86% or something like that from Forest members. He went into it with the best of intentions, but like, sometimes people just don't belong in different fields or whatever. They think they might do well at a specific area, or their success in a past life might translate to a different field or different areas, I said, and it just hasn't worked out. So like I think Dermot has to hand over the club to a new custodian and start that process immediately. I think he can still leave with his head held high. Like he put in what, like he mentions himself, I think close to 1.5 million, and secured other investment from David Cronin of like 500,000. But like, look, he's just invested that money extremely poorly. Like if you look at this, if this was any other business and he was like a partial investor or whatever, and like when you think about it, he started off, Forest had, as owners, had won the first division, gotten into the Premier Division, and he then took over. He's since put in about 1.5 million of his own funds, and we're in a worse position. So if you compare that to any other business in the world, he'd probably say, right, it's been 3 years now. I think I need to pull out here before I bleed more money into this thing. It's just obviously not working. So if I was him, I would start that process, and then the person that comes in, use all of the different lessons learned from the last 3 years to, you know, do the opposite, basically. Like it get someone in who's like a top experienced sporting director, you know, get someone in then to manage the off the field in terms of like commercial and things like that, and leverage like business relationships and things like that. Like in fairness to Dermot, he's done great work as well on the merchandising, so try and keep that going. There's been some decent events, some not so decent events as well. Like we've done a Italian 90s celebration nights and stuff like that up in Dublin and one in Cork, and they were very successful. We've done probably one too many golf events. We've done comedy nights. Some of them were a complete flop and very poorly attended. So we've tried to dabble in things like that as well. Try and grow that side of the club as well. And, you know, just take the best of what Dermot did and take the worst of what he's done and learn from it. And that will help us get back. And, you know, a completely different transfer strategy, whether it, I don't know, John, is it more houses we need to get players in from like the UK and Europe and outside of Cork? I just don't know what the approach is there. I'm sure a sporting director would come in and absolutely crucify anyway what we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 seasons, like, because the proof is in the pudding, like, isn't it? It's hasn't been good. So I guess yeah.
I think that's a fantastic answer, Declan. And you know, hopefully in we'll be back again soon enough. And look, at the end of the day, the reality is we're a sleeping giant, and there's no reason why the right leadership we can't get back to where we should be. But it's going to take a lot of rethinking, I would say. But Declan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and you're more than welcome at any other time. And the same goes for any other lads as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, we just keep us posted, lads, and yeah, best of luck with this as well. Very professionally put together. Like, fair play to you. I know exactly the type of work you're doing on this behind the scenes that no one sees. So fair play to you, and it's good that you're getting together across different clubs as well and helping each other out. Like, that's great, and it's the likes of yourselves and the TikTok generation and stuff like that that are growing the league massively. Like, in fairness, like, you see some of the follower counts that the clubs have on TikTok now, and it's dwarfing like what they've got on Instagram and Facebook and X. Like, it's crazy. So this is all the way forward, like video content, real honest content like you're producing yourself. So like, keep it going, lads, and fair play. I know it's that growth at the beginning can be tough, but it does take a very steep incline then once you pass a certain point. I've worked a good bit in social media and online that space, especially for Cork City. That's how I kind of started off getting involved in the club 15, 20 years ago. So like, I can see how long it takes to grow a channel and get it going, but all I can say is stay at it, and you're doing a great job. And I'm definitely stealing that intro idea. Like, that's class.
Great.
So, great stuff.
And we'll help in whatever way we can.
Yeah.
Thanks
Great.
so much.
All right. Thanks, lads. Over and out. Amigos. Adios.
All the best. Bye now. Jack, apologies for getting much there, but
no, that's grand. That's not my field. That's not my field of knowledge.
I suppose it isn't really, no. We've got Cornell in now. Cornell, how are things?
Oh, things are very well, thank you. How's it going, Jack?
How you doing?
Oh, very good, man.
Great stuff. So, guys, we're going to go into the review of games. I'll just briefly get something real quick. Right. Okay, so we're going to review the games. So we've got a lot to get through in this one, to be honest. Got a lot. So we've got 3 games to review from the last week. First division review, as well as about 5 matches on this week. So looking forward to get stuck into it. Really interested to hear everyone's opinions in the comments down below, guys, on what we're saying, what you think, etc. We'll start off with Cork City against Sligo Rovers. So where did it go wrong? Cork City leading 2-0 with 20 minutes to go. Milan and Bang is off to Shelburne as well. Do Sligo have a serious chance of avoiding the relegation playoff now? I think they've shown, even when they play not so well, still grind out a win like that is so impressive. I'll go to Jack first. Jack, what did you make of this game?
What a game to broadcast on Virgin Media. That was just proper League of Ireland football comebacks, just everything you'd want from a game. It definitely showed Cork's weaknesses, especially in defence. Like, you know, they have gone up top and they've got everyone fit, like Colin Sullivan and Rory Key and Sean Maguire or whatever. But yeah, Sligo are on a very good run of form. Owen Eldon banging in the goals now. It definitely showed Cork's weaknesses.
100%. We'll go to Cornell there. So, Cornell, what did you make of this game?
This was one of the best games that I've ever seen. I mean, 2 teams battling it out. I mean, Sligo versus Cork City. I mean, what a massive game this was. And you know, I think this was for the taking for Cork City to go in and do something special, but it didn't really happen. Honestly, look, it's not been going very well for Cork City, and we all see the position that they're in. This game, obviously, I think from being 2 goals up, you know, and then to give the game away, I think was kicking the teeth for Cork City. But I think I think Sligo Rovers were the deserving you know, winners, and they showed the quality and they've shown the ability to come back from 2 goals down and prove once and for all that they have improved, despite that we've been very, very bad critics of them of their season.
100%. The next one we've got is Derry City against 21 shots in this game for Derry, and they still couldn't find a winner. Will they consider this a point gained or 2 drops? That's 7 points now between them and Shamrock Rovers' chance of a title race. Really, this is a game that Shamrock Rovers would be licking their lips at. Like, actually, you know, that essentially it creates a big gap. Their 2 biggest challengers. So we'll go to Jack first. Jack, what did you make of this game?
Yeah, this is definitely 2 points drop for Derry. Like 20 odd shots and not struggling to score. Is the loss of Patrick Hoban. I don't know what it was, but Bows are blessed to come out with a point there. Rovers, that's league wrapped up now. I think Rovers have it now since that game, 7 points. I don't see Rovers losing many games since from now until the end of the league. Yeah, Derry will put up a good fight, but I think Rovers still have it.
Yeah, I think Derry they've just been too inconsistent this season to mount a real challenge to Rovers. That's the reality of it. Cornell, what did you make of this game?
What I make of this game, obviously it's gone. The title has now gone into Shamrock Rovers' hands now. I think Shamrock Rovers will be very proud that both Derry and dropped 2 points, dropped now. Obviously, we expected them to be in a title race, which, you know, obviously Derry want to be in that title race, but especially when you've got like Rovers that are in a very, very good, fantastic position at the top of the League of Ireland table, then it's very, very difficult to catch them at the moment. But I think both a point was very, very important for them, for both teams, and I think it's definitely swinging Shamrock Rovers' way in winning the title.
100%. does look that way. The next game was Galway 2, Waterford 4. A 6-goal thriller at Eamon DC Park. Galway's poor run of form continues. Are they at risk of being dragged into a relegation battle? I definitely think so, because how well Sligo are looking. Waterford look to be hitting form at the right time as well, with now 2 wins in a row. Could John Coffey be under pressure? I'll go to Jack there first.
Yeah, Galway are definitely under pressure. I don't think John Caulfield's job is under pressure though. I feel like he's done so much with that squad, especially in the first division last season or the season before, when they just blitzed everything. He's a very good manager. He knows what he needs from his team, but the run that Waterford have been on, especially since the win down the RC against Cork, yeah, they're picking up form. This cup run could be good for them as well after getting Cork again, which seems to be a favourable draw for them. It was a very big win for them tonight, but it definitely does drag Galway down with Sligo and Cork.
100%. We'll go to Cornell there, so.
My views on this is, look, I think Galway United, as Jack say, I don't think John Caulfield is under pressure. I think they are feeling the effects of losing Moses Dyer. Malcolm Shaw right now is the more recognisable striker right now to try and get them the goals. But look, I think if you look at it from a certain point of view, I think there was no complaints there, basically on what took place for Galway United. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they deal without Moses Dyer being there now, and how Malcolm Shaw takes that role. But yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting for Galway United.
100%. I have a feeling Galway will end up in ninth the way they're going. But then again, we were just talking to obviously Declan there, like, and they're playing Cork City this weekend, this match week, and we are like the perennial confidence boosters. So we, if they can get a nice win against Cork City, who knows? But anyway, we'll move on. We're just going to do a brief overview of the first division. So just a quick update. Treaty come from 2 goals down to finish 2-2. Dundalk get their first title bid back on track with a 3-2 win over Wexford. Barry Coffey continues his great scoring form with Cove Ramblers with a brace, but they were held to a 2-2 draw with Finn Harps. UCD beat a 10-man Kerry FC 3-0 at Mount Hawk Park, and a Billy O'Neill brace was enough for Bray Wanderers to defeat Longford Town 2-1 at Bishopsgate. So looking at the league table now, Dundalk have a 6-point lead over Cove Ramblers, and Bray with UCD and Treaty United in the remaining playoff places. So it's a very competitive first division this year. Obviously, we had Robbie Lynch on last week, and he agrees that it's probably one of the most competitive leagues that we've. So yeah, it's a fantastic point. Go on. So there's actually only 2 Friday night games this weekend, this match week, and there's actually 3. There's 1 Saturday and Saturday, and 2 on Sunday evening. So it's a proper like, it's almost like an English style match week this week. The Friday night we've got Cork City against Galway United. How important is a win to either side Friday night? Cahill O'Sullivan is, unfortunately, we never got to discuss that with Declan, but unfortunately he's out now he's probably never going to play for Cork City again, I would say. And have Galway United been able to replace the goal scoring ability of Moses Dyer? I'll just go to Jack there first.
Yeah, this is definitely a big game for both clubs, especially with Sligo Rovers lurking in the shadows of Galway. They'll want a big result here. They definitely haven't been able to replace Moses Dyer. I don't think if they tried their hardest they couldn't have, but there can be goals on that Galway side, especially from the type of football they play. It can just be anyone on the end of that. From a Cork point of view, they need to show something, some sort of like foundation to their football, like from the back up to the front to the goalkeeper even. There just needs to be some sort of like motivation to do well and like get points on the board.
100%. It's a pretty important game for both teams. I'd say it's more important for Galway myself, because they obviously have a lot of hope that they can still stay up. For us, I think, as I said to Declan, like, I think all our hope was gone when we lost to Waterford, and it was completely solidified against Sligo. So who knows? But it's not looking great. We'll go to Cornell there. So what's your thoughts ahead of this one? Cork City.
My views on Cork City versus Galway United. I think this is a win for Galway United for me, because Cork City haven't been in the best of form this season. They've lost some very good key players. They've lost Rory Keating to injury. They've lost Daniels to Kilmarnock, and Troost has left them, despite that he was their best goalkeeper. I think this is an opportunity for Galway United to really go on and get a big, massive win against Cork City, because I think the position that Cork City are in, it can't be going on like this. And then I think the pressure is piling up on Gerard Nash to really find a way to get a win. But I think until they can, get back their best players or bring in some sort of players that can really help the squad boost it up even more, then I think it's more problems. And I think the more problems that piles up on Cork City, I think that's where they'll be in a relegation playoff battle.
You said it can't go on like this. I have a feeling that it can, unfortunately. But hopefully it won't. Anyway, next game is Bohemians against Drogheda United. This is the first league game for Drogheda, 4th of July. Could this give Bohemians an edge going into this game? You'd imagine they'd be a bit more sharp, etc. Bohs are obviously just coming off a point against Derry, where they were fairly lucky to get a point. And Drogheda, we have no record in their form in recent times, so it's going to be a really interesting one. Two teams who are in kind of similar positions all season. We'll go to Jack first. How do you think this one's going to go?
Yeah, this has been a really, really harsh month on Drogheda. Obviously, not having the competitive game within a month or whatever, but they're still only 3 or 4 points away from Derry, who are in 3rd. So there's still hopes for Drogheda to get European football. It's about how they react to having a month off, basically. Bow's looking to come into this to catch back up to Rovers. They're 7 points behind Rovers or something, but they're definitely not been on the greatest form, especially going off that result against Derry. Something needs to click back in Bows.
100%. Cornell, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, my thoughts are this is another big game. Bohemians versus Drogheda. I think Drogheda is fighting for a place to get back into Europe after they were kicked out of Europe. Bohemians are fighting to catch up Shamrock Rovers, so they can still be within the title race, despite that they've had a bit of a dip in their form. But I think if Bohemians can like carry on the momentum that they're doing, especially that front four of Denvoy and Rooney and Tierney and Jake as well, and Clark as well. Sorry, I think for me, I think they've got a chance to keep the pressure on Rovers and not Derry off their perch. But Drogheda, I think as well would have something to say about that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bohemians goes on and gets 3 points out of this.
100%. I actually think this is probably arguably, well, it's not game of the week, but it's one of the closest games of the week in my opinion. It's probably just behind one we'll talk about now in a minute. Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's actually going to be a good one for the fans. But anyway, we'll move on to, that's the Friday night games. We'll move on to the Saturday night game, which is, as always, Sligo Rovers at home against Shelbourne. So Shelbourne returned to LOI action against an informed Sligo. Shells are now 14 points off league leader Shamrock Rovers. Is getting back to Europe the aim for them for the rest of the season, and can Sligo continue this great run of form? We'll go to Jack there first.
Yeah, this is a big game for both clubs. Shells just played the second leg against Carlbeck a couple hours ago. I believe they lost 1-0 on the night. I think it was 4-0 in aggregate. So they're looking to bounce back from that, obviously. But it's a big track back from Azerbaijan to come play on Sligo on the Saturday. The Showgrounds is known to be a tough place to go for most Dublin clubs like Pats and Rovers and Shells. But you can see a couple of switch ups in Joey O'Brien's squad coming. and that could give a bit of life back to Shells.
100%. Declan actually predicted a win for Sligo here, because it would just be such like a win for Cork City, but it doesn't really matter because Sligo win anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could genuinely see that happening as well. Shells are going to be tired. It's a long way to travel from Carabag all the way up to the west of the country. So yeah, I could see Sligo picking up the 3 points here and the form they're in and the quality that they have as well. Owen Elding, Will Fitzgerald, etc. Even Patrick McLean is playing great as well. But anyway, we'll go to Cornell. What's your thoughts on this one, Cornell?
My thoughts for the Shelburne and the Sligo Rovers game. I think this is a bounce back ability game for Shelburne. They lost their game tonight, obviously against Crowbag. Obviously, they're going to be heading into the third round of the Europa League, obviously, which is, I mean, a good thing for them. But I think the loss that they suffered tonight, obviously 1-0, 4-0 in aggregate, is not really a great sign for them going for their run in Europe. But look, I think this is an opportunity for Shelburne to really bounce back and say, look, they're coming back with a huge vengeance. As for Sligo, I think they've been fantastic this season. The way that John Russell's really brought in outstanding signings and new faces to really boost this team and give them the opportunity to avoid relegation playoffs, I think is fantastic for them. And I think they've got a huge opportunity for them to try, and you never know, might even try and finish for Europe.
You think Sligo get Europe?
Yeah, why not? Why can't with the form that they're on, John? I think if they carry on playing the way they're playing, John, I think never say never on Sligo Rovers trying to challenge for Europe. So never rule that out.
I like the shout. It's possible. Who knows? And it would be an amazing story after how poorly they started the season. So yeah, who knows? This win could maybe kickstart that. We have to check maybe what like stuff, but yeah, I like the shout. So next game is on Sunday evening. That's Waterford against St. Patrick's Athletic. Waterford will be looking to make it 3 wins in a row as they welcome St. Pat's to the RSC. Both teams in moderately decent form and stuff. Pats have been good in Europe. Jack, as a Pats fan, how do you see this one going from a Pats perspective?
It's not going to be the walk in the park that some fans may think. 100% not. Pats are 7th in the league at the minute now or something. It's not been the great seasons for Pats. We do usually seem to do well when we come back from Europe. Look at last season, I guess, when Stephen Kenny came in. We play in Estonia on Thursday. All these factors are going to come into play when he's going to have to pick his team. Last time out when we played Waterford, the Brandon Kavanagh winner kind of set us on to Europe almost. I can see Pats coming out with a win though. I just think the confidence boost that Pats usually get will spur us on now.
Yeah. Look, Waterford are in good form, but Waterford are in good form. But at the end of the day, Pats have the overwhelming quality, so it will be an interesting one. But we'll go to Cornell. What do you think? How do you think this one will go?
I think the way it's going to go, St. Pat's will come out, have been won in Europe, which I'm very, very happy about, which they deserve to win and they deserve to go through to the next round. Look, listen, I think St. Pat's will have a lot of confidence going into versus Waterford. Waterford have been in amazing form this season. John Coleman has really turned their season around and really got the best out of Waterford, especially Longer and Almond. They've been in absolute wicked form, but St. Pat's with the quality that they have and the squad depth as well, which is also a boost for them. I think could go in their favor. So I mean, look, it's not as Jack say, it's not going to be a walk in the park because it isn't. Because normally when they play, it's always a walk in the park for St. Pat's, but I think St. Pat's will give everything that they've got right now, and I think they'll bring that form from Europe and bring it into the league against Waterford. So definitely St. Pat's to win.
Right, two men who are confident in St. Pat's abilities here. I'm going to go slightly to the contrary and predict a Waterford narrow 2-1 win. But I like your confidence for St. Pat's as well. They've obviously got more quality than Waterford would have. So, yeah. Next game this was the game I was referring to a while ago. It is the biggest game of the week. It's Shamrock Rovers against Derry City. In Tala, first against third. 8 points sides. How important for the Derry for the potential of a title race? I think it could be huge. You know, like to go within 5 points, but not just go within 5 points, but have that momentum. Against a team. You know, they would, if they were to win this game, they would create the momentum to go on and make a title race out of this. However, on the flip side, if Rovers win, they go 11 points ahead. Surely there's no coming back from that. That'll be like the relegation battle at this stage. So it's the biggest game of Derry's season. I can imagine they are already getting really mentally prepared. I'll go to Jack first. Jack, how do you see this one going?
This is definitely going to be the biggest game. Rovers haven't played in a while either. Obviously, get through to the automatically being put through to the second round of the Conference League. They haven't played as many games as Derry have this year or this month. That could lean into Derry's hands. Derry have played some big games this month against Bosenholt, some really, really good tests. I can see Derry at least getting a point here, I think, because Rovers will be playing tomorrow, like Pats. I forget who they're playing, but they are playing tomorrow. There will be another big game on Sunday against Tallaght. They're going to crack eventually, in my opinion. And I think it could be the start, but I can see a draw in this game. I think Derry would be very happy with a draw.
Yeah, a draw would be okay, I suppose, but it doesn't do much good for them in terms of the title. It was just from a respectability point of view, a draw they'd be happy enough. Cornell, how do you see this one?
How I see this one, look, Derry City are want to be in the title race. They want to have a firm grip on the title race and put more pressure on Shamrock Rovers. I mean, Derry City going into this game to try and win this game, I think this would be another fantastic opportunity for Derry City to go on and win. But with the form that Shamrock Rovers is in, it's too difficult to replace them. And then, especially with the new faces that they've brought in, you know, John McCulvin has come in now. I think I could see probably Stephen Bradley probably rotating it. Derry City, obviously, they've brought in some very good reinforcements as well. And I think it's going to be very interesting. My head does say a draw. I think a draw is probably likely, but then it's not really good enough for Derry City, to be honest. So, but it wouldn't be surprising if Shamrock Rovers goes on and wins this game, and I think increases their points tally up the top of the table, and then you'll have to say that the title race is completely done. So I think it will be a Shamrock Rovers win for me.
Shamrock Rovers win, that would certainly shake things up right there at the top of the league and pretty much seal the title for the Tallaght club. Lads, that brings us to the end of the pod. Really good one this week. I've really enjoyed the guests, and thanks again to Declan Carey from TOTAP for coming on the other Three Amigos podcast. We hope to have more interviews like this in the future. And also, we thank so much Jack and Cornell for their contribution.
Thank you.
I'd like to see in the next few weeks, if there's any particular guests, any particular topics, as we approach the end game of the season, where it's the season has flown by. It's not been a good one as a Cork City fan, but it's been an enjoyable one from a League of Ireland fan perspective, and it's flown by. So, thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch you again next week, and slán go forward. Thanks all for watching.
Thank you very much. Thank you.